Chatth Puja, one of the most celebrated festivals across North India, began with thousands of devotees taking a dip in a holy river. This year, the four-day festival will go on until November 8th. Delhi schools and banks will remain closed on November 7th as Chief Minister Atishi announces a public holiday. Embassy Office Parks, India's largest real estate investment trust, announced that CEO Arvind Maya is stepping down with immediate effect. This decision follows a directive from SEBI in an interim order which ordered Embassy Office Parks Management Services to suspend the manager of Embassy REIT. Celebrating 11 years since the launch of India's first interplanetary mission, the Mars Orbiter mission, ISRO and the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting shared a video of Mangalyaan. Initially planned for 6 months, the mission was extended to a decade, making history. It is said to be a big day for America as polling to elect the next president takes place across the country. Just hours to go before America votes, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump were on the campaign trail till the last moment. Trump and Harris tie at 3 votes each in New Hampshire to kick off Election Day. Ahead of the U.S. elections, Hindu priests in India prayed for the victory of the candidates that they support. In Telangana, priests are hoping for the victory of the current Vice President and Democratic candidate, Kamala Harris. Meanwhile, in New Delhi, a group of priests are praying for the victory of the former U.S. President and Republican candidate, Donald Trump. As the U.S. elections approach, senior Hamas official Osama Hamdan downplayed their significance, stating that the elections do not concern the movement or the Palestinian people. He further urged the election winner to heed the voices within the U.S. calling for an end to the ongoing war. Israel has formally ended a decades-old cooperation agreement with the UNRWA. The Israeli government has notified the UN of its intentions following new legislation that was passed by the Israeli parliament last week. The new laws ban the organization's operations in the country after accusations that it had been infiltrated by members of Hamas. A Palestinian official condemned Israel's decision to terminate the agreement, facilitating the work of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, the main aid provider in Gaza. Aid groups have warned that the legislation could severely hamper the UNRWA's work, creating further obstacles to addressing severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The UNRWA is the largest aid provider in Gaza. The Israeli government's decision has also raised questions from other high-ranking officials across the world. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller says the White House does not support this decision. Miller says that the U.S. has addressed its concerns towards the Israeli government and did not rule out the possibility of the White House imposing sanctions on Israel in the future. Prices of basic goods in Gaza have skyrocketed since the Israel-Hamas war erupted last year. Most Palestinians living in the war-ravaged enclave have been relying on the thin stream of humanitarian aid that has been trickling in. The goods availability in Gaza could fall further in the coming months following the Israeli parliament's decision to restrict operations of the UN agency helping Palestinian refugees. The Pentagon estimates that North Korea has deployed 10,000 to 12,000 troops in Russia's Kursk region and warns that the troops would become legitimate military targets if they engage in combat support operations against Ukraine. On Monday, South Korea and the European Union strongly condemned North Korea's reported dispatch of troops to aid Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin met North Korean foreign minister who has been on an official visit to Russia since late last week. South Korea's parliament spy agency suspects that North Korean foreign minister may be involved in high-level discussions on sending additional troops to Russia and negotiating what the North would get in return. The UN condemned North Korea's recent intercontinental ballistic missile launch as a violation of sanctions and a threat to regional stability. The launch, seen as a move to grab U.S. attention before its election, comes amid criticism of North Korea's reported troop support to Russia. It also showed advancements in long-range nuclear strike capability, though North Korea claimed it was for self-defense. The Australian Defence Minister announces delivery of rigid inflatable boats to the Ukrainian military. Australia announced that it will donate 14 rigid hull boats worth 40 million Australian dollars to Ukraine. Defence Minister Richard Marles said the fast and highly maneuverable boats would bolster Ukraine's maritime and coastal defence. Germany's top diplomat reaffirmed the country's support for Ukraine on the eve of the U.S. presidential election that could bring far-reaching changes in Washington's policy towards Russia's all-out invasion of its neighbor. Germany is Ukraine's second biggest weapons supplier after the U.S., and Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock vowed that Berlin's backing would remain steadfast. A former police officer who shot and killed Andre Hill has been found guilty in the shooting. A jury convicted the former Columbus officer, Adam Coy, of murder. Coy testified during the trial that he thought Hill was holding a gun and going to shoot him, so he fired 4 times. Hill was holding a cell phone and keys in his hands when he was shot in December 2020. A Russian rocket blasted off successfully to carry a pair of Iranian satellites into orbit, a launch that reflected growing cooperation between Moscow and Tehran. It was carrying 2 Russian Ionosphere M Earth observation satellites and several dozen smaller satellites, including the 2 Iranian ones. And Iran's 2 satellites were the first launch on behalf of the country's private sector. Dawson's Creek star James Van Der Beek has revealed that he has been diagnosed with cancer. The 47-year-old says he has been privately dealing with his diagnosis as he made the announcement in an interview with the U.S. outlet People. The star made his name playing Dawson Leary in the U.S. teen drama series from 1998 to 2003 and is due to appear in a U.S. Fox special called The Real Full Monty. And now shifting focus to the world of sports. Kiwi cricketers received a grand reception at their team hotel in Mumbai after their historic Test series win over India. The New Zealand Cricket Board have shared a heartfelt video on their Instagram where fans can be seen congratulating the Black Caps players for their emphatic display. Meanwhile, Australia have taken a 1-0 lead over Pakistan in the 3-match ODI series after a thrilling 2-wicket win over the visitors in Melbourne. Chasing a modest total of 203, the Aussies lost a couple of early wickets before Steve Smith and Josh Inglis formed a formidable stand to guide the hosts to victory. And the unmistakable face of Indian cricket, Virat Kohli, turns 36 today. Since making his debut in 2008, Kohli has added several records to his name, including scoring the most ODI number centuries, most 50s in T20 internationals, and winning the ODI World Cup, T20 World Cup, and the Champions Trophy with the men in blue. Now, over in the Premier League, Fulham registered a thrilling comeback victory over Brentford at home, despite trailing the match 1-0 up till the 90th minute. The Cottagers scored twice in stoppage time to complete a 2-1 win on the night. Arsenal's sporting director, Edu, has resigned from his role at the club. The 46-year-old Brazilian joined the Gunners as technical director in the summer of 2019 before being promoted to sporting director in November of 2022. With him leaving, the London side is set to appoint James King as their new director of football operations. And the UEFA Champions League resumes again tonight with a high-profile clash between Real Madrid and AC Milan. While Madrid is fresh off a derby defeat against Barca, the Italian Giants have just 2 wins in their last 5 matches. And out to the world of tennis, Britain's Cameron Norrie secured his first win on the ATP Tour since July this year. Despite losing the first set, Norrie managed to secure a comeback win against his Spanish opponent in the Moselle Open. And the New York City Marathon on Sunday broke the record for the world's largest marathon. According to the marathon's organizers, 55,646 runners crossed the finish line in Central Park, almost 1,300 more than the ones who finished the Berlin Marathon in September. Fans of the wildly popular 1971 book, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, are in for a treat as popular children's book gets film treatment. The story has been transformed from the page to the screen by director Dallas Jenkins, with Judy Greer, Pete Holmes, Lauren Graham, and a slew of young talent added to the cast list.
Don't miss out. The annual Christmas pageant tickets are on sale now.
They're advertising it on TV now?
The pageant is an especially big...
In great news, the short film Sunflowers were the first ones to know. Directed by FTII student Chidandana S. Nayak, has qualified for Oscars 2025 in the live-action short film category. The film is produced by FTII. King Khan, who received overwhelming birthday wishes from fans everywhere, recently drew attention after meeting a fan from Jharkhand who had waited outside of Mannat for 95 days in the hopes of seeing the actor. The fan's dreams came true after SRK met him and even clicked a picture with him.